Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio, so you know what to do. Get involved in the chat and the comments. We're going to be chatting about United's potential new owners. It looks like we're getting closer to, fingers crossed, the Glazers leaving and new owners coming in. According to various reports, there's bids, there's talks, there's all sorts going on. So we'll get into all that and we'll see just what the latest news is on that front. We've also got an update on a youngster signing a new contract as well, which is always good news for Manchester United. So we want to hear from you guys. Get involved in the chat and let us know what you think about all these latest stories. Danny Inns is straight in there, says, morning, Jay. Tuvok says, morning to our collective uncle. I'll take that. Jim Mack says, morning all. Don't forget as well, if you're watching, hit that like button, give us a like, and if you're not done already, subscribe to the channel. Give us a subscribe as well. We want to get to 700,000 subscribers, and with your support, we can do it. Right, should we get into this ownership story? We've got a few stories here that are doing the rounds. There's one there you can see from the Daily Mail. Manchester United ahead of next... there we go. Yep, we can see that. A group of 5 series bidders have emerged to buy Manchester United ahead of next Friday's soft deadline, with Qatari bid set to face competition from Sir Jim Ratcliffe and American investors. Now, we always thought this would happen, that there was going to be this sort of bidding war, if you will, between the super rich. Now, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has obviously been linked with the club. We know about his interest. We've covered Sir Jim Ratcliffe's interest in Manchester United extensively for the past sort of year and a half, probably. I think there was the first sort of rumblings were proper rumblings as well, because there's always been this sort of thing of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's really rich. He used to go to Old Trafford, maybe he could buy United. That's been going on for years. But I think it was about 18 months ago, people thought, okay, something could be going down. In the summer, when he went for Chelsea, or he made that bid for Chelsea, it looked like it was a sort of bid that wasn't a proper bid, if that makes any sense. People were saying, we spoke to Kieran Maguire from the Price of Football, the football financial expert, and he said that felt like Jim Ratcliffe more or less going, look, I'm here, I've got money, and I'm interested in buying a football club, rather than him going, I really want Chelsea. So we've known about the sort of interest in buying a club. Then we knew about his interest in Manchester United. He did a live Q&A, which we covered when he was talking about his business dealings and his business empire. And he mentioned, he was asked about Manchester United, and he said that he used to go and watch United, but his sort of party line was, United's not for sale. Well, now United is for sale. We know he's interested in it, but he's not the only one. You can see there's 5 serious bidders. Now, a group of Qatari investors, you can see from the headline there, have made their interest in buying Manchester United clear. So you've got Sir Jim Ratcliffe, you've got Qatari private investors. This is the sort of the big question when it comes to the Qatari investors, because Qatari sort of ruling family or the government or whatever own PSG. Now, according to UEFA rules, you can't own 2 clubs. You can't own PSG and Manchester United because there's a conflict of interest there. What if PSG, as we often do, what if Manchester United got PSG in the Champions League? You're going to go, okay, yeah, well, we own both these, so, we're going to somehow give an advantage to one or the other or whatever. Or you might look at it and they go, okay, United won, let's say, PSG won the Champions League. Oh, that's great. Next season, now we want to do it with Manchester United. Let's sell a load of players from PSG to Manchester United to make them win it. I know I'm being a bit sort of, ridiculous there, exaggerating a point to make a point, as Adam McCall would say. But you get the point. It's a conflict of interest. It doesn't work. So that's the sort of question there. Is this the same owners as who own Paris Saint-Germain? Now, according to some reports, the Mail, I've seen it in the Metro, the Mirror and other places saying that it might not necessarily be the same owners. It might just be private investors from Qatar. Now, I've always said, I don't want Manchester United to be owned by a country or the government of a country or the royal family of a country, the rulers of a country. I don't want my club to be part of sports washing. I don't have a problem with my club being owned by someone from that country. Now, if this is indeed private investors from Qatar, which it may well be, I don't know yet, we'll have to look into it, then there's nothing wrong with that in my opinion. I've not got an issue with where you come from. It's just about whether there's, like I say, it's a sports washing enterprise or whether it is just private investors who, come from the same country as the owners of Paris Saint-Germain. Fergal McClement says, be interested to know people's choice if it was Radcliffe taking over using the Glazers method or a Qatari investment fund. Yes. Now, you can see there, the Glazers reportedly want $6 billion for the club. There was talk that Sir Jim Radcliffe could come in and United could still end up with debt. Now, not just the debt the Glazers leave us, but also that he could do a takeover which involves some sort of structured debt or whatever. People are against that because you look at it and you go, we've had all that with the Glazers. We want someone to come in, get rid of the debt, do Old Trafford up, back the manager, sort the training ground out, happy days. And that's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of money. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe has a lot of money. He's Britain's richest man. He's worth, depending on what reports you read, anything between, I think, 12 million. Oh, sorry, 12 million. You don't get you anything nowadays. 12 billion or 21 billion, I think, is the most sort of generous estimate I've seen of his wealth. So potentially he could do that with his own money. Now, a lot of businessmen don't like spending all their own money on anything, do they? So there's a chance as investment, they may well go to the banks and say, look, let's do some sort of structured debt. That's what is slightly concerning, because I think on the surface, Jim Ratcliffe looks like he'd be a preferable owner to some of the others that have been suggested, but we have to, I think as fans, I get the idea that you just want to watch football and you don't want to get involved in this. You don't, even when you're protesting against Glazers, I'd rather go to Old Trafford and not feel I have to protest. But I do protest because I've got to. But I'd rather be able to go and just watch the football match and not have to worry about my owners. But you get to a point where you do have to worry about your owners because they're ruining your football club. And I think it's the same with the new owners coming in. There is an element of, you know what, we should look into this as fans. I think so. Anyway, should ask questions about it. We should want to know what the plans are from the owners, where they're getting the money from, how it's going to look, what the reasons are for buying Manchester United. We've just gone through 18 years of awful ownership. It was only the genius of Sir Alex Ferguson that kept us competitive for the first, 8 years of those 18, where we were still challenging for Champions League, winning Champions League, winning titles. And don't forget as well, when the Glazers came in, they inherited a very, very strong squad with some of the best players in the world. They inherited a squad that contained Rio Ferdinand, Wayne Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, Paul Scholes, lots of others I could go on, but I won't. Then they also had a training ground that was relatively new. I think Carrington was, 4 or 5 years old when the Glazers come in. And Old Trafford hadn't sort of disintegrated, if that's the right word, or degenerated, to the point it has now where it needs more than just a lick of paint. So they inherited something that was a lot stronger. And over the last 18 years, it's just got weaker and weaker and weaker. And on the pitch, they made some terrible decisions. They didn't back the managers in the right way, and they didn't have footballing people in charge of footballing decisions. So even when you go, well, Manchester United spent money on Paul Pogba, we spent money on Harry Maguire, we spent money on Angel Di Maria, we spent money on Alexis Sanchez, we spent money on Memphis Depay, whoever. A lot of those signings didn't work out because you didn't have a sort of a coherent strategy. You look at Liverpool, what they've done. You look at Manchester City, what they've done. Even Chelsea to a certain degree. They've all spent lots of money, but they've had a bit of a plan. Chelsea now haven't. Chelsea, I don't think have got any plan. I think they're just buying whoever they can get their hands on who's half decent. But there was a plan at first. Chelsea's plan was crackers. It should never have worked. Just, changing your manager every 2 or 3 years and sort of backing the manager and doing this, that and the other. But it did work because their sort of plan was go out and get the best manager available, back him, and then when things go wrong, get rid of him. And it worked for him. City's plan was a bit more structured. Don't forget, City won titles. Whether they'll keep him is up for debate, under Mancini, Pellegrini and Pep Guardiola. So it's not just Pep Guardiola's cleverness that won them titles. They had a structure in place. They spent a lot of money, but they spent it in the right way, unfortunately. Liverpool backed Klopp in the right way. And a lot of their targets were targets that were already in place before Jurgen Klopp even arrived. So he didn't come in and go, I want Mo Salah, I want Virgil van Dijk, I want Alisson Becker, whatever. They looked at a lot of these players and they thought, this is going to fit this manager. At Manchester United, it was like, David Moyes comes in, wants Fellaini. Louis van Gaal comes in. I don't even know if he wanted half the players he got. At times, I don't think he did because he left half of them on the bench, but he gets Di Maria, he gets Ander Herrera, he gets Luke Shaw. Then you have Jose comes in, he wants Matic, he wants Lukaku. Then you have Oli comes in, he doesn't really want them. He gets Maguire, he gets Wan-Bissaka. Now you've got a new manager who's coming in and he's got his own targets, obviously his own signings, which he's made, which have been very good. So far, and I think we've, you can see there's been a real sort of step forward in what we've been doing transfer-wise, but I don't know if that's because there's a new structure in place or how much of that is down to the manager. We'll have to wait and see. So United need someone who can come in and not just spend money, but have a structure in place that works. Do you know what I mean? They need a structure in place where you go, okay, footballing people and making the football in footballing decisions. So we'll have to wait and see. Is that going to be the Qataris? Is that going to be Jim Ratcliffe? Is it going to be someone else? The other sort of stories doing the rounds is that there's actually talks underway that one of the Glazers went down there and went through there. One of the Glazers met up with. Sorry, Alexa, can you go and shut that other door for us? I think there's a load of noise coming from there. Went to a meeting with the Qatari royal family, met with them, have been sort of trying to woo them, trying to get them to invest in Manchester United. Whether that's a minority investment or whether that's a full-blown investment, we'll have to wait and see. But as always, we'll keep you posted. Personally, I've said it a million times, I'm not going to keep repeating myself. I'd rather we had owners that weren't doing it for sports washing reasons. Get involved in the chat in the comments, let us know. F Oil Money says Sean McGrinder. The Urmston Strangler says JJJ, a behemoth of the Man United fan base and the presenter of my dreams. Love that head. Love the news. Love the paddock. Wow, that's proper emphatic. Akil PM says global fans want Qatar, local fans want Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Drip says morning Jay. Seems to be a little bit of a divide here. I've seen a lot of fans talking about this, and I've seen some fans saying, do you know what? I don't care. If it don't care, just want anyone but David Moyes. If it is going to be Qatari money, if it is going to be oil money, I'm not bothered. Just whoever. We need to do that to compete nowadays anyway. And I've seen other people say, you know what? I've got scruples, and I don't believe that's okay. And I don't think there's a similarity. Or Jim Ratcliffe and the Saudis, the Qataris are the same. There is even talk of the Saudis actually. Talk of maybe someone from Saudi Arabia coming in. We'll have to wait and see. There's also this idea that it can be the consortium. That it could be a similar model to what happened at Chelsea, an American consortium. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. When we first had this statement from the Glazers saying that Manchester United was going to be for sale, I remember talking to Kieran Maguire from The Price of Football, and he was saying that you look at what Chelsea had, they had all these different bids, some of them were consortiums, that could happen in Manchester United. So we'll have to wait and see. Even Sir Jim Ratcliffe might end up being head of a consortium. There was also talk of maybe, someone like Lewis Hamilton getting involved. I mean, it is a bit left field, some of the suggestions, Apple, Facebook, I've heard those sorts of companies mentioned as potential future owners of Manchester United. Do I expect to see it though? I don't think there's any legs in that from what we gather, but there's certainly legs in the idea that the Qataris or that Sir Jim Ratcliffe or that an American consortium could be in for the club. So we'll have to wait and see. As always, get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think. Who's your preference? Do you care? Do you just want big, shiny new signings at Manchester United? Joel Mead says no to oil. Christopher Thomas says, what celebrity would you want owning us? Ustaf Gupta says, whoever buys the club, it's important to ensure we retain the structure and philosophy brought in by Erik ten Hag. Mike Wilson Barrett says, Jay Simple has it. The club needs to return to English hands. It needs to return to footballing men. Oh, man. It returns to... I'm not bothered if it's English hands, to be honest with you. I don't care where the hands are from. I just want them to care and understand football. But I do agree with the sentiment about backing Erik ten Hag, and I don't want to see owners coming in and just getting rid of the manager or trying to interfere with the manager. He just needs to be backed properly. I think Erik ten Hag is the real deal. Brian Casey says, morning, Jay. We just need an owner that has the best interests of the club at the centre of their plans, and we don't want any more debt. That's it. I completely agree with that. Manchester United makes enough money that we should be debt-free. I know you can operate any business with debts. It's not beyond the realms of possibilities. But the amount of debt United in is ridiculous, considering the amount of money we generate. And the reason for our debt is ridiculous. We're only in this debt because the Glazers did a leverage buyout where they didn't have any money, so they got into all these loans and all these mortgages, or whatever you want to call them, and used the club to cover those loans. That's why Manchester United is so much debt. I think it was $500 million when they arrived, and it's about the same now. So they've not changed. It's not gone down. They've not got rid of the debt like they promised they would do. It's just stayed the same. The new owners potentially have to absorb that debt. There is talk, like I said earlier, maybe even bringing their own debt with it. I mean, that's what we want to see. We want to see Manchester United on a solid footing, because things can go wrong for a football club, even the size of Manchester United, and you don't want to be operating where you've got all this $500 million debt hanging over you. It's just so conflicted, so conflicted. Here's a good question. Manish Bandari says, Jay, should we be concerned with Sir Jim and the handling of Nice in League One? What I would say about that is, I've heard there's been different reports about how he's handled it, whether that be the same model that he uses at Manchester United. We did an interview with Matt Slater, I think, from The Athletic. We spoke to him because he covers Nice and he covers French football, and he'd done an article on Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his ownership in Nice. So go and check that out. There's a video there on the channel. Matt Slater from The Athletic talking about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's ownership in Nice. Because a lot of things didn't go right there, haven't been going right since he took over, but not all of that is down to his ownership. I think there's been some decisions there that have been questionable, but you have to look at the structures in place. And would it be the same at Manchester United? That is the big question. Adam Fox, thanks for giving us your first super chat, says, how does Jim Ratcliffe not have a conflict of interest? Doesn't he own Nice? That is a good question. I think there's somehow a way around that because it doesn't seem to be an issue here. No one's saying he can't buy Manchester United. They are saying it with the Qataris and PSG, but they're not saying it with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Nice. And I don't know why that isn't. I think there must be a reason. There must be either a way that he can own both or he can sell his share in Nice. I imagine he would if he had to. I imagine that would be the thing where he just walk away from Nice. There was talk that maybe the Qataris would walk away from PSG if it came to it, but now it seems to have cooled that idea a little bit. It's so sort of it changes so much. There's a link in the description for that, in the chat, for that interview with Matt Slater, so go and check that out. It changes so quickly, it evolves very quickly, so you'll have to wait and see. Remy Phillips says, how are you say no to oil but use oil-based products every day? Is using oil-based products the same as having an oil-rich nation buying your club? Is it? You can tell me. I'll ask the question. Should we talk about new signings? Not new signings. I wish we had new signings. It would be nice, wouldn't it? Well, we have had a few in the January transfer window. Should we talk about a young player, signing a deal with us? Kobe Mainoo. He's been getting some first-team games this season. He's just put pun to paper. He's just signed a new Manchester United contract. He signed a new deal there. You can see him and Erik ten Hag. He's only 17. He sort of plays above his levels, doesn't he? I mean, his age levels, not his ability levels. So yeah, he's been getting. We saw him playing in the first team. We saw him playing for the academy when he was a lot younger than some of his peers. He's obviously a very, very talented individual, and it's great to see him signing a new deal at the club. Hopefully, we can see him feature more for the first team. I think you have to use sort of youngsters like that sort of sparingly. He's only 17, but he has done very well sort of when we've seen him in his little cameos and stuff. So him signing a new deal, I think that's a positive move. Definitely. You want to get your youngsters sort of tied down. I think the Garnacho one is the one everyone's waiting for. As far as I know, that's still not... I don't think he has signed a new deal, has he yet? I think they were talking about... they were having contract discussions. It was last month, wasn't it? The sort of contract discussions were going on. Let's have a look here. There was a report with Garnacho last week that he'd agreed or that he was ready to sign a deal. I don't think, as far as I know, he has signed that deal yet, though. So we'll have to wait and see. But youngsters being tied down to Manchester United for a little while doesn't sound like a bad idea for me. Kobe Mainoo, the fact that when you're playing at sort of 16, 17 for the under-21s, when you're getting first-team appearances at the age of 17, which is pretty unheard of, really. There's only a handful of players that do that. That's not common. Some players, look at someone like Jesse Lingard. I think he made his first-team debut when he was 23, despite the fact he was at the club from the age of 8 or whatever. Some players are sort of later bloomers. Then you have most players who get a sort of first-team appearance when they're 19, 20. At 17, Kobe Mainoo's been getting in the team ahead of the likes of Zidane Iqbal and Charlie Savage as well, which was a surprise, wasn't it? Because I think Charlie Savage has gone out on loan now, but in the pre-season tour, we saw Zidane and we saw Charlie Savage do very well in those games, playing a lot of games, doing really well. They sort of leapfrogged likes of James Garner, who eventually obviously left for Everton. And then a lot of people looking at it going, okay, maybe they're going to get a chance this season. I thought Zidane would, because he's been on the bench a couple of times, but he hasn't really, has he? Whereas Kobe Mainoo has, which has been a bit of a surprise, but not in the sense that he's not any good, but just in the sense that you looked at what had gone on in pre-season, you felt like it would be Zidane Iqbal who'd be the next one. But it's good to see that he's doing so well, and we'll have to wait and see what happens here, because United have got serious injuries in midfield. We're missing Casemiro, obviously with suspension. We're missing Eriksen. We're missing Van der Beek. We're missing McTominay. we're down to bare bones, and you have to wonder, like, if we get 1 or 2 more injuries, could we end up with Kobe Mainoo starting? Sounds ridiculous. Well, you know, what happens if Fred gets a knock, or if Sabitzer, who's just come in, gets an injury in the next couple of weeks or whatever? You're going to have to start looking at maybe Zidane or Kobe Mainoo as being one of your options. Let us know what you think anyway. Rusty Sawblade says, Garnacho reminds me of Woody Harrelson, lol. Interesting one, that. Rich Denny says, like the video. Make sure you are hitting that like button. Barry Murphy says, morning, Jay from Spain. Give Joe our best for the great work he did on the overlap. Yeah, did you see Joe on the overlap? Really good. I was just commenting that, messaging him there the other day. Messaging him there, really sorry about that. He did really well. He spoke really well, as he always does, doesn't he, Joe? Didn't really hold his own. Sounds a bit weird, because it wasn't like he was arguing. He was putting the point across that Erik ten Hag's doing a fantastic job at Manchester United, and everyone was agreeing with him, because, you know, he is doing. But Joe spoke really well. So if you get a chance, go and check that out. It's up on our channel as well. We've got the bit that matters, the Manchester United bit from the overlap. And Mighty Elk says, Joe comes across so well. He really does. Really impressive. I'd hate to do things like me. Sat there with a load of rival fans and Jamie Carragher and that, and just, you know what I mean, having to sort of argue your case and end up saying something I regret. But Joe, as always, calm, measured, to the point, and insightful. Good stuff. Solo in the chat. Good to see Solo from United Agenda. Make sure you go and check that out. I'm going to leave it there. We've got the preview is already up. Go and check that out. We'll have the brew later on, so hopefully you'll join me and Stephen Howson for that one as well. I've been Jay Motti. This has been The Paper Talk. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.